Well, hello everyone, and welcome back to another installment in our tips and tricks series for the Golf Blitz mobile game. Today we will be looking at a course that I have a ton of fun playing around on, and that is the Mars Colony Tour number 9. This starts playing around with a lot of really fun mechanics, and the stage is designed in a very interactive and fun way. So I look forward to showing you a couple of tricks that I've picked up on these courses so you can excel at it as well. As always, if you have not taken the time to do so, make sure that you are subscribed to the channel, as we are nearing that 1,000 subscriber milestone, and hopefully we can hit that within the next week or two. If you enjoyed today's video, make sure that you leave a like on it, and without further ado, let's have a look at the Mars Colony Tour. The Mars Colony. There's a lot of holes like this, and I find it funny that there are areas outside of the map, even though you can't interact with them. But that's not here nor there. With this first portion, you're going to want to make sure you keep an eye on that spinner to hit into it or be in it when it rotates to the right, and it does alternate back and forth. So, like you just saw there, if you time it correctly, you will be sent down further along this course. From here, you've really just got to make your way up and across that little divider. Ideally, if you can be hanging out at the bottom portion of this area, that'll allow you a nice follow-up, but ideally you're not really going to have that because of the slant that's going to kick you down into the lower section. But from here, you'll just want to use that anti-gravity portion elevator that will lift you up, and then it's a nice little chip in, even though I flubbed that a little bit. It's a nice little chip in down to the green. If you position yourself just right, you can get it to chip in from that higher platform, but if not, it's a very nice, easy follow-up from there to the actual hole. Again, the rotating platforms is going to be a recurring theme around here, so you'll want to keep an eye on that, as knowing which way these platforms rotate is going to be a very big portion of this tour. Same thing here, the spinners will generally start off orbiting the opposite way of where you need them to go in order to progress further on down the tour. So once you get down onto this one, you're going to have an easier time. Now this spinner can give you access to a portal that spits you out later on down the course. However, it's not always worth your time, and I would only recommend doing that if you absolutely happen to be shot down into it. Otherwise, you'll want to progress down as far as you can, make your way up the elevator. You're not always going to have a favorable chip into the hole like you saw there, but it'll at least get you close, provided that you don't get drastically unlucky and end up going through that portal, which I have seen happen, but it's not super common. Now here, this one doesn't have a spinning platform right off the bat like the previous holes that we've looked at have, but you'll just want to make your way across and ideally down. We just missed that, which was a bit unfortunate, because in order to progress through this section, you're going to need to access this tube, which is going to shoot you around. And if you can have a fast forward or super fast forward ball active at this portion, then you're going to have a much easier time getting through that. And I do have the sniper ball, which I could use to get through that little opening, but if you can get around it without using one of your power-ups, you're going to have an easier follow-up once you have made it through. So it's not the end of the world if you miss something like that, and believe me, these tours take some time getting used to with some of the precise angles and small openings that you do have. So if you can, pop into a practice course and just have a go at the way that these courses are lined out, as that's what's going to be of most benefit to you. So this tour, or this hole, is very, very interesting because there's a portion here that is very tricky to get into. Now, with the sniper ball, you might be able to make that shot directly down, and you should see that from the alt account making its way down here. But if you can't or don't have access to that power up, if you can just kind of lightly roll off of this lip, from this little pile of land right there, then you're going to have a much easier time. Now from here, you'll just want to hitch a ride on the spinning platform that does have the goo or the sticky substance attached to it. And then ideally you can get a favorable bounce that's going to land you down here on this lower portion of the track that's going to then shoot you over to the left. From here, it's just a nice little chip into either that portal or the little riser down to the ground below. And the benefit of using the portal, especially if you have the laser or another power-up like that, is you can just drop right on down into the hole. So sometimes it may actually be better for you to avoid the portal instead of going through it. The other option is using like a grenade to sabotage your opponents if they happen to get a leg up on you. Now this hole here is quite a bit of fun as well, and as you'll see, we have another one of these rotating platforms that we have to deal with and we have to compensate for. So it's going to kick back over to the left this time, and I managed to make it onto the roller, but not with the timing that I had hoped for, so that is a little bit unfortunate. We're going to try this again now that we know it's going to roll over to the right, and if you can be nestled in that spinner before it takes off, you're going to have a much easier time. Now here you can either opt for avoiding the spinner completely, or again you're going to want to try and line it up with when it is about to pitch over to the right, because it will throw you down a lot harder and that will cause you to bounce off that little riser onto the green and probably just into the hole outright. Either option is fine, however. So this hole is similar to one that we have seen before, and it just has a tube that will accelerate your ball as it makes its way down the course. Ideally, again, if you can have the fast forward or the super fast forward ball active here, you're going to make it to the end a lot quicker. Now, I do see people with the super ball attempting to make their way or make a shot just from the starting zone over towards the end, but I haven't seen a lot of really good success from that. It may be beneficial once you have higher amounts of power where it will just leave you down at the very end, because you saw that you bounced back and forth a little bit towards the end of that tube. So I personally haven't seen it pan out as well, but I also wouldn't discount it because it's not necessarily a horrible option. So, just for kicks and giggles, let's go ahead and attempt this with the Super Ball method of coming over this way instead. And this is the primary reason that I don't like this strategy, and it's because it doesn't leave me close enough to the hole to the point where I can really take advantage without an additional power-up, and there's a water hazard over here. I suppose that it could work fine if you can get a little bit closer to the hole, but I have my Super Ball's power stat maxed out at this point, so unless it continues to scale with the power stat of my character as I continue to level that up, again, I don't foresee it being a very useful strategy for this hole. I think that the intended route is better. So this hole is another one that is quite interesting, and it's very straightforward right off the bat here, but here's where you've got to be a little bit cautious, and you will have opponents attempting to sabotage you as you attempt to do this. Because if you hit too hard, you are going to end up in the water hazard like I just unintentionally demoed for you there. So what you're going to want to try and do is get to the point where you're rolling off that end and not zooming off into the water hazard that's over here. From this point, there's one of two different routes that you can take. You can ideally take this higher course by sticking up to the wall here or ending up on this platform where you can get a nice little follow-up this way, because there's a red portal up here at the end of this room that will drop you right down onto the green. This is especially handy if you have the sticky ball, because it's going to leave you with a much safer approach as you just drop right through onto the green itself. If you do overshoot, you still have an option because you can take this yellow portal down to the portion in the room just above the green, and then you've just got to play the game of waiting around with this little rotating spinner and make sure that you are landing on it before it rolls over to the right, as it will land you down on the green at that point. This hole is one of my favorites, and there's a couple of ways that you can go to approach it. The first off is making a shot down into this little opening here, and I didn't quite nail it, and if I had used the sniper ball, I would have had an easier time with that shot. However, it is doable right from the spawn area. From here, you're going to need to take a shot that will roll you up into this pipeline. That's going to shoot you down. Ideally, it'll land you on this platform, but occasionally it does send you down below, in which case you can just take a little chip shot over to the left to go up that elevator and land in about this zone. If you have access to the Super Ball at this point, what I recommend is taking a bank shot off of that wall, because as you see, you're going to deflect and end up with a very nice and easy follow-up onto the green itself. Now, you can use the Super Ball from those lower platforms as well. It just gives a very nice bounce back onto the green for a very easy follow-up at that point. This is a hole that can be a little bit tricky. And the reason I say that is because there's two different paths that you can take, and they're both fine paths. Ideally, you can take this one, which is going to land you over next to these two portals, because without that, you're going to end up over here on this lower section. And that's not a bad option by any means, as I will attempt to demo with the alternate account here. I'm probably actually going to end up in the water hazard, which you just saw up there above. But if I come down this way, you can see where my alternate account is over here. Then I can chip onto this little platform, as it will spin me over to the right-hand side. And instead of going up this portal, if you have something with a decent enough power stat, you can actually make a nice little shot over onto the green. And I'm gonna get a little bit closer so that shot's a little bit easier for me. And right like that, you can bypass this whole portal section. But ideally, the faster route is going to be the one that's right here. So that's the pathing that we are going to take to get to the actual hole itself. So there are a couple of options. Again, the ideal one being this smaller portal room if you can hack it, but there is still a way to bypass that completely if you end up on the right-hand side of the course instead of the left-hand side. Let's see if I can get a bit of a redemption shot here, because I don't have access to the sniper ball this time around. And right like that, you can see that you can indeed make it down into the bottom portion of this course. And we actually have an additional tool that might be able to help us a bit more when we get up to the upper portion here, especially like this if we end up down in the bottom. Now, the anti-gravity ball can be a phenomenal option here because it will just give you the opportunity to get right up to the top for a nice easy follow-up to the hole. But again, the Super Ball is still a very viable option if you need to make a bank shot off of that right-hand wall and get up to the green as well. So either one works quite nicely, and that's part of the reason that I upgrade my accuracy stat. I know it's a controversial move, but then you can pull off these more technical plays. Okay, well, I've ran through these courses a couple of extra times just to make it absolutely sure that we've covered everything, and I do believe that that is the case. But do you have any additional feedback? Do you feel like there's any tricks in any of these courses on the Mars Colony tour that I have missed? Be sure to let me know what your thoughts are in the comments down below. Again, if you've made it this far into the video and you found it helpful, feel free to leave that like, and don't forget to subscribe for that daily variety content. Thanks again for watching, and I hope that you have an absolutely fantastic rest of your day.